with you here today. So we take a look, through everything about life through this show. It's yes, it has we look at the lens of mediumship, we take a look at conscious co-creation, as well as what makes us human from the metaphysical understanding of self through ontology to really understand why it is we do the things we do and why life plays out sometimes the way it plays out. And today's show, of course, is no different. I'm telling you, this is a deeply personal conversation for me, as well as something that I know is very universally relevant. It is about our purpose. So many of us, and I know all often, a lot of the people who tuning into the show, I mean, we're kind of on the same path here. So I know and understand that you, like me, have probably spent a lot of time searching and questioning, or sometimes feeling lost, that wondering of what's my real purpose here? Why am I here? I can tell you that for all of the years that I've been doing readings for people, when they come in, that's one of the biggest common questions that they have, where in making the connections and bringing in the guidance, they come with that yearning, that seeking of saying, Bonnie, can you please tell me, like, what's my bigger purpose? Like, what is my purpose for being here? So it's such a relevant conversation. And as I said, something that I know we all go through. It's a part of our journey. And I believe that many of us are on this in terms of rediscovering what may be a sense of purpose, especially when we consider the various things that are playing up in the world around us. And I know for myself, I actually used to believe that I had no purpose. And I know that there's probably some of you tuning in as well who can really understand that feeling of that. I know I'm certainly probably not the only one. But it really was because of the trauma that I carried, those wounds from my past, the moments of deep grief, of confusion. I thought I was lost and broken, and I was simply existing, and really without what felt like any meaning or direction. I was going through the motions of life, really adhering to what was, in society, kind of how we're conditioned, what some of those expectations were of what it meant to be a woman, what it meant to be a mom, what it meant to be someone who had a career, all of those things that were embedded, that can sometimes leave us feeling incredibly sad. And I know it's not saying that being a mom wasn't fulfilling, because it was. I want to talk about all this here in a minute. It was just there, I could still feel that there was something more that I was craving. I was craving for something more than what my life had become, or how I was living my life. So I know that there can be a dissatisfaction, on this journey, where we reach different points along the path where we just feel like something else is there. We might feel like we're stuck and we're just not making any momentum forward, or we're completely feeling like we aren't, it may be going towards any kind of purpose or meaning in our life. So there can be many, many different variables in this. But I know for myself, that belief system that sat there, it created a lot of sadness. It really left me feeling like being trapped in like a Groundhog Day. And if you've seen that movie, it's one of my favorite all-time movies, really looking at, because it's just repeating the same unfulfilling aspects of life. And again, I had a lot of great things going on, a beautiful family, a great job that I enjoyed, lots of friends. And so what a good relationship. So it wasn't like there was, there was distress, so to speak, in what was my day-to-day life. There had been distress earlier in my life. So it was everything that had been suppressed that was still sitting in the undercurrent, that was creating some form of unfulfillment in my life. And part of that, it was like, here's Groundhog Day, dealing with the same doubts, the same habits, the same insecurities, the same belief systems, feeling like I was on a perpetual cycle of not getting anywhere. And then, tomorrow, let's do it all over again. So this is what I realized, though, through my deeper healing work, this path that I've been taking, is that we've been conditioned to think that life is about struggle. We've been conditioned to believe it's about suffering, and that we are just meant to survive. And I believed that my purpose was also somewhere far out there, some grand achievement, and also what would come with it, maybe some external validation for my existence. And honestly, That was a lie I was telling myself. That was a lie that was rooted in the trauma. It's a lie that was rooted in the limiting beliefs. And some of those, beliefs, maybe these are, I have thousands of different ones that I've been able to reshape and kind of look and alter the paradigms that have been operating in. But there were beliefs like I'm not good enough, or I need to do something extraordinary with my life to be truly worthwhile, that my past really was defining me and that I would never find a purpose. I wasn't one of the lucky ones that were going to be able to know or have a sense of purpose in their life. And if I didn't succeed, if there wasn't success and there wasn't the external validations and there wasn't the outward recognition that I failed inside of myself, that I was a failure, that, it was like I was never going to measure up. There was always this, missing the mark, or missing the bar, so to speak. And I also would believe that I didn't have what it would take. I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't educated enough, I didn't come from, privilege, all these different reasons why I really had accepted what was just what life had become, as opposed to recognizing that in the absolute truth of it was I was the creator of my own misery, and that I could also be the creator of my own joy as well. But those become the limiting beliefs. And as I said, this stems from our conditioning. Now, if you're just tuning into the show for the very first time, I've got several episodes that I've done over this last year where I talk about our inherited conditioning. We can look at our inherited conditioning as being things that happen and play out in society. We have familial or family conditioning as well, based on the paradigms and belief systems that we're born into, what's a part of our bloodline. We also have, the patriarchal, the matriarchal conditionings that exist within our, broader scope collective. But there's also inherited conditioning based on what we've carried forward in this lifetime with us, and the understanding that our soul has many, many life experiences, and that we are here for evolution, for conscious awakening, for being able to realize or understand ourselves at the highest level, or as many people deem and express as that divine self within us, that it's always the remembering of who we truly are. And so all of the conditioning that we carry from previous lifetimes can be a part of what our experiences are here, and conditioning based on karma, trauma, and you name it all sits there. Those paradigms are a big part of what's operational inside of us. And if we are not consciously looking at ourselves, not just in terms of the broken parts that are in us, or this not good enough, but challenging those belief systems, and really, being conscious about what we're thinking, what we're speaking, and how we're enacting in our lives, because inevitably it's all creating. The universe is always listening, and all what's running in our systems, whether we are consciously aware of it or we're in the unconscious of it, moves into creation. So when we look at just understanding our role in our lives, we can, really begin to understand more about our own responsibility for our lives as well. And that in itself is a journey. And of course, it requires deep healing, and these things that, these struggles in life, which can sometimes feel as if life is against us, is really the understanding it is for our greater good, even though it may not look pretty in the package. But when we look at these belief systems, so these things that sit in the subconscious, we like to believe the conscious mind is in charge. That's an egoic understanding of self. It's like the mind, the ego says, yes, I'm worthy of being loved, and I'm a success, and I'm not going to fail at this, and all of these things that can play out. Or, it believes that I have a purpose. Yes, I have a purpose, and I'm good enough because, that's what the books are telling me, whatever it is. Our ego can conceptualize these ideas about ourselves, but the ideas that our ego has about ourselves, whether positive or negative, are not the override system. It's what exists within the subconscious. It's what's at the core of our being that matters, and that really dictates the experiences, what we attract and call into our lives. So it requires us on this path to be very aware of our thinking, how we're speaking, and more importantly, the willingness to challenge what we believe. And our ego, of course, always likes to lock in and believe that it's right in its position. But it only operates, that ego self, those thoughts that are going out there, it's only activating maybe 10% for us. It's only like, if we were to measure it on a scale, the impact of those thoughts, what we're saying, is only 10% of what actually plays out. It's the number one reason why so many people feel like they've got everything, enough education, enough, support. Maybe they've got enough financial backing for whatever reason, and yet they still can't find what is a sense of purpose or feel as if the work that they're doing is being recognized. And it's because of the undercurrent. What sits in the subconscious within the underbelly is what is going out into the universe. It's the override system, and it's operating at about 90% of our experiences in our life. So when we become aware of that mathematical kind of imbalance that exists there, we can begin to understand that, okay, we have to really begin to question what we believe if we're looking to create and manifest the lives that that we've been praying for. So all of these belief systems, now, some of these, when I say conditioning, they can also be beliefs that we've created about ourselves based on experiences we've had in this lifetime. These can be, from how people treated us, the environments we grew up in, whether or not we were worthy of love or worthy of recognition, or that it all can be saturated within those early childhood experiences. Now, it's not to blame the parents. That's not it. We all have our role, but we are, from the human condition, we're all very wounded individuals, whether we believe it or not, because we have a conditioning that sits there, and a conditioning that is a part of what makes us human. And it's here. It's for the human experience. That's why, we're it's a part of us. But to understand that those messages, those belief systems, those are the things we've internalized, those experiences growing up, societal expectations, the trauma of our wounding has convinced us somehow that we're broken and that we're unworthy or we're incapable. And that can really seep into how we see ourselves, what we believe we deserve, and it can overshadow what we can understand as our true potential. Now, we all carry wounds, and it can feel that with the wounding, we may all feel as individuals or even collectively that there's no hope, that we have no purpose, that the dark is more powerful than the light. In whatever context you want to think about it. But trauma in particular, it really shrinks our sense of self. It obscures our connection to our higher self and really leaves us feeling displaced as well as disconnected from what may be our true calling. And our true calling, I'm going to talk about this in a moment, is as to what that can look like. But it is the static or the noise of our wound, of the static and noise of the limiting belief systems and conditioning that we're operating in, that kind of drowns out any kind of whispers or awareness to what would really truly be fulfilling in our lives. And the thing is, as hard, as in all the work that I do with women in helping them to heal their stories and begin to create new narratives and really reclaim their power, light, and authority for their lives. What I want to say, there's a profound truth in here, is that irregardless of the work we do, that wounding, that trauma, it's there. It requires attention. We want to avoid it by all costs. The ego says it happened already. I'm going to forget all about it. Well, I was certainly that girl, and trust me when I say it didn't work. It shows up, and the invitation is going to be there for us to heal it. But trauma is not the end, and I think this is where we get confused in it. It's like, instead of it being this, this never going to go anywhere. I am this is my life. I'm destined for this. I need to live the life that based on the cards I've dealt, the beds that have been made, et cetera, et cetera. That defeatism is what can leave us to believe that There are no other possibilities for ourselves in our life. But the truth of it is that it is an invitation, and it's our invitation to go deeper. An invitation when, we're triggered, or things are coming up, or these belief systems are coming in. These are opportunities for us to heal, to release the old patterns, to reconnect with that divine spark that really and truly exists inside of all of us. And so when we're willing to, take a look at those wounds and really move into a deeper fundamental way of processing and working through them, we begin to understand who we are at the deepest level. We begin to understand that purpose really isn't something that's external or outside of us, but more importantly, we begin to really recognize that it's something that's very alive within each of us. And it's just waiting for us, not anyone else, to recognize it, to appreciate it, to dive into discovering more about what makes us who we are, where our gifts are, where our talents are, and really looking, instead of this shifting within the mindsets of I have no purpose, or or nothing ever works out in my favor, or all the good always happens to others. We begin to recognize that good that we see happening for others is an expression of us looking to be realized, that the success of others that other people are having is our own success being mirrored back that we haven't even understood yet, or things that are looking to manifest based on what may be emotional triggers or reactions, whether that be envy or jealousy. It's just the universe's way of showing us what is looking to come forward into our lives and looking to be revealed. But it does require us to begin to, dive in. But at the moment we can understand that purpose isn't from the external, we have purpose simply because we are, because we breathe, because we're here, we're alive, and that someone of authority, whether you call that God, whether you call that creator, or universal mind, or the all that is, or I mean, there's many, many words, but source thought it wise that you be here, that you matter because you're here. Everything about you, it is at the core of worthiness and value and has purpose. We've just been conditioned to believe that we don't. Our experiences make us feel as if we're not purposeful. And so it becomes this constant, I don't want to say battle, because that sounds really super intense and extreme, but it's this inner conflict. That's probably a better way of saying it. An inner conflict that we struggle with, and we all struggle with it. I have not met anyone on this path that hasn't struggled in that way, to really understand or know what lies inside of them, to not just know it on a cognitive level, but to know it within the very cells of their being, the very core of what exists inside, to know and understand that it has value, that we're worthy, that all things are possible, and all things are possible because of the existence of why we're here. This breath that we breathe is enough to say that we have purpose. So this really is where it begins to start. So it's about acknowledging that this journey comes from understanding of what purpose is, and that's very multi-layered. It can also seem very complex in some way. Purpose is not always straightforward. It's really not. I always wish someone would have given me, here's the card with all the information about what it is that I'm here to do in this life. Here's everything that my soul agreed on before I incarnated. But it's an act of remembering. It's peeling back all of the layers and we can, from this very human state of mind, get very caught up in comparing ourselves to other people, measuring our paths to the growth of external, our growth, our path, our growth, what we're doing, or what we feel called to do. We can begin to compare it to external standards. And I think this is really where, we can look to social media. Like, social media is this great, wonderful way for us to connect. It allows for, the stories, the interaction, the connection, but it also creates a dynamic that if we're not attentive to those belief systems, we're not attentive to doing our deeper healing work, that it can lead us to feel inadequate. We're measuring our life to the accolades of what others have achieved, or what is, we just believe that our own efforts in some way fall short. And so it really, again, when we look at these ways that we diminish ourselves from the external lens, instead of looking at it from an inside, a deep inside place, and understanding what sits in the core of every single human being, and that is this aspect of perfection and worthiness at the deepest level, even though, as I said, our human would rather tell us, that it's not possible for us, or we're not good enough, and all those belief systems that sit there, and it would try to convince us that we need to stay small, or we need to just settle for what our life has become. And that's simply not the truth. But it can be, again, I use this word, this defeatism, where we just feeling like our best efforts that we're put forward, we sometimes feel like we've been defeated, or we feel defeated simply because we move into this comparison zone, or measuring of who we are and what we have in our life to what other people are doing, or what they have in their life. So we have to really, understand that purpose. This is about the love you pour into what you're doing, the love that you pour into every act that allows you, through your own authenticity, to bring joy into your life. And joy can be found simply in being who we are. It's you just being you. There can be joy in that. There's joy in just being yourself. I always refer to, even for myself, when I look at the work I'm doing, the many, different aspects of how I help women to be empowered, whether it's through, my one-on-one work, the courses that I offer, the events, the retreats, all of these things. So this is something that I do, but it's not who I am, and my purpose isn't confined in all of those things anymore. There would have been time, maybe, I've been in this work of self-development for, over 15 years already. So, at the beginning part of it, I was really caught up in what I was doing. It was, and exactly for all the reasons that, I was just sharing with you. But over time, it really became this job that I do, which I refer to as my joy of being. My joy of being. Everything that I do, it's bringing me joy. And to understand that that's what it's all about. Purpose is in the joy of doing anything you're doing. That's purpose. So you could be working and flipping hamburgers, and some of the happiest people are, working in places where they're doing what seem like little jobs or unimportant jobs. They're not unimportant. No job is unimportant, especially when that job, that joy of being, is present with the person. So it doesn't matter what we're doing, as long as it's bringing us some sense of joy, we are in alignment. And that's purpose. That's what this life is all about. This is about finding the things that you love to do, what brings you joy in doing them, and to know that regardless of whether they make you money or not, whether other people recognize it as having value or not, as long as it's bringing you joy, that's purpose. So this is the starting point. This is about looking at what is it that I have within me that I would like to do that would bring me joy. And it's about going and doing those very things. Those very things are what unfolds purpose. Purpose, and you're say, is right here. I just said the magic word. It's unfolding. It's not just one thing. It's all those things that we're doing that bring us joy in doing them. Because when we are experiencing joy, we are in alignment with source. We're in alignment with our higher self. We're in alignment with the divine that exists inside of us. So when we look at, as I said earlier, my wounds had convinced me that I was unworthy and that I didn't matter. And I was waking up in that endless cycle of what I should do, but what I should do wasn't fulfilling because that was based on expectation, measurement, pressure. And so I had these belief systems of what I believed life was supposed to be like and what I was supposed to do based on the external aspects of it. And that only deepened my sense of unworthiness, as that. So letting go of the shoulds and coming into a place of saying, what is it that brings me joy? Where do my passions lie? Going for a walk in nature can be just as much living your purpose as what it is in grandeur of the greatest success in your business. This is about looking at what brings joy, and purpose can't be compared, because again here we're taking an internal feeling that we're experiencing and trying to find an external reflection of what that might be, and it's not possible. So no one can know purpose for us. No one can know what it is that's going to bring us joy. Only we can, based on how it feels inside of us. And the very things I'm going to tell you that have been your darkest moments on your path, those wounds that you've experienced, those challenges that you're navigating, all of those things, and without the pressure of should, all of the complexity is what's contributing to your greater purpose. But we've got to start not at the end of what's my purpose and knowing how it is that my soul is here to serve in this lifetime. Because I'm telling you, so not only do we have the aspect and understanding of soul, of recognizing that we have contracts and agreements and all those things I started, talking about at the beginning of the show, but it is actually through the complexity and the suffering and the struggle, as well as the joy, that the soul fulfills its purpose here. So we have to really look at redefining what purpose is and really what joy is for us. And trust me, when you are in a state of suffering, it can be really hard for us to really feel like we have any joy, because again, so many things have happened that have led us to believe otherwise. But our purpose is a living, breathing part of who we are. And that purpose is shaped by all the experiences we've had, the wounds, the things that we've embraced, the light that we have inside of us, or the shadow parts that are there. It's all there. It shapes every single part of it. And it really comes down to, when we understand what greater purpose is to not negate or belittle the other small times, or what feel like small insignificant times that are part of our purpose too. And so it's about, how we respond to life circumstances. How are we loving ourselves, other people, and how can we find joy in the everyday, in the every single day? When we look at it from a spiritual or ontological perspective, this is also knowing that it's founded in our connection to source. It's founded in our connection to the divine, to God, the universe, or whatever resonates with you. Because our purpose is rooted in aligning with that flow. It's not just about, as I said, what we do. It's about how we navigate this journey. And can we navigate? I think this is the ultimate challenge for many human beings out there, and probably will also be the very thing that will be the demise of many human beings out there. That's just my point of view. But the ultimate challenge is this journey of, how do we navigate this journey with love, with kindness, with acceptance, without judgment, and believing that in somehow we're greater than others, or we're more deserving or worthy than others, based on status, or of whether that be, financial status, political status. We look at, familial status even. There is just this overwhelm of what we could say is an overt experience of the absolute opposite, where we're witnessing and seeing the lack of love, the lack of kindness, the lack of equality, the lack of acceptance, the lack of all of it. But that's the ultimate challenge for us as human beings. And so for you, for me, I mean, obviously you're tuning into my show, so I know you're on path and you're making choices that are leading you in that direction, because that's really what, here again, when we understand purpose, it's really what it's all about. It's about looking at not a, or looking at how we respond to life and not how we react based on our wounded parts. It's about the invitations to heal those wounded parts so that we can be the greater expression of that love, of that kindness, and really allowing for what is the authentic self to be completely expressed and revealed to us. And so when we are in harmony, when all that is in harmony, then we begin to draw to us, of course, more love, more genuine connections, right? All of these things. So every challenge, every joyful moment, every ache, every celebration, it's all a part of purpose. It's everything that's leading us, each and every one of us, to step into a greater rhythm within our lives. So how do we reconnect with that sense of purpose, and how do we find that in our wounded states? And honestly, it's about really becoming very attentive to the choices that we're making that feel aligned and feel happy, feel expansive, cause excitement, bring us pleasure of life, feeling and recognizing the blessings we have is a real great step towards that. But it's so important that we pay attention to how we feel, because when we feel stuck, when we feel sad, when we feel hurt, wounded, offended, when we feel jealous, when we feel envy, when we are angered, whatever the emotion is, it's an indication that we're out of alignment with who we really are. We're out of alignment with source. We're out of alignment with our higher power, with the universe. And that's why it hurts so much, because the more that we are in that state of being separate, of separating out because of those wounded spaces and because of the stories and the victimization that we can experience. And the victimization is real. I mean, the things that happen to us, that victimization is real. But here again, it's about, what are we choosing to do with that? Are we choosing to stay and let the victimization become the dominant factor in our life? Or are we looking to the one who endured, this one who's inside of us, with offering compassion, doing the deeper healing work, and being willing to, acknowledge and recognize our own worthiness, and being able to look and understand ourselves at the deepest core, and begin to put practices in place that will help and support that. I mean, this is where all the conscious choice comes in. And what are we choosing in the moment? Are we choosing to react, and are we choosing to, be defensive or judgmental? What are we choosing for? Are we choosing to gossip? Are we choosing to talk behind people's backs? Because here again, whatever we're giving, we're going to receive. I mean, it's just the nature of how this universe works. And so when we can understand that anything that causes us pain, anything that leads to us feeling separate, isolated, alone, is always an indication that we're not connected to who we are. We're not connected to source. And so our choices in on this journey are about finding the very things that will lead us back into connection and into alignment with source, back into alignment with God, with your higher power. Again, whatever name you want to put on that, just so that you can understand that your emotions are your indicators. It's your internal guiding system, the internal guiding system that says that if the emotion is heavy, or we could just say that it's negative, it's an indication that we're not in alignment. It's an indication that we are choosing our own suffering. So we look at making small little choices that lead us to feeling a little bit happier, a little bit relief. Like we can be angry and then we can be frustrated, and from frustration we can be disappointed, and from disappointment we can lead to, just a little bit, not feeling so pleased about life. But we have to do the work to get there. We have to dive in and challenge what's going on inside of us, and whose truth am I operating in, and is this a story that I've just been telling myself, and is this belief that I'm really holding, is this really what I believe? We have to start challenging the conditioning. We have to start, again, giving ourselves the opportunity to dive in, to take a look in the mirror at ourselves and recognize that we are the common denominator in all of our experiences. And that, sweet friends, was probably one of the hardest things for me to ever wrap my head around, that it was happening through different aspects of what was my own level of awareness and consciousness. But I was the common denominator. Everywhere I went, there I was. Didn't matter, doesn't matter. It's like different people, different stories, different experiences, but it all was leading to the same outcome. So in order for us to change the results we get in our life, the experiences we have to begin to change some of the things we've been doing, which I'm sure you've heard many, many times. And those choices are a part of what alters and changes, what pulls us out of the habits, what pulls us out of the things that maybe have been leading us further and further away from purpose, and making choices that are leading us back closer and closer to it. Because we need, in order to reconnect with this purpose, we need to reconnect with love. We need to reconnect so that we're living in like this harmonious state where we can be our true selves, and we're connected to the divine source, so that joy, as we can begin to understand, is the vibrational state of purpose. So we find things that make us happy, what make us excited, what gives us, what kind of juices things up, what gets us motivated and happening, and, do more of that. You've probably seen and heard, what brings you joy, do more of that. And that's because it's the very thing that leads to purpose. But our purpose, when we find it, this is really about this ever unfolding aspect of purpose. So I want to just go back to something I said earlier, and that was that our purpose is not in what we're doing, but it's in the joy of whatever we're doing. You understand that difference, right? So it's not defined by external validation. It's not something that it shows up and says, and illuminated in neon lights, this is your purpose. It's about the doing of it that brings you joy. And all of those choices you make, that where it brings you joy and brings you joy and brings you joy, that's all purpose, and it's leading you back to who you are. And when you come into alignment with who you are, and you're experiencing more and more joy in your life, and you're making choices that are for your highest and greatest good, and you're responding to life instead of reacting to it, when you're able to override some of the thoughts and mindsets of conditioning and the paradigms, when you're really in this space, then you begin to understand what it means that purpose is about service. Purpose in any form is about helping others. It is about giving to others so we can receive. It's all tied up within the universal laws. It's all sitting in that cycle of giving and receiving, of what we're putting out is what comes in. And this is where, again, we want to be really conscientious of what we're asking for. What are we asking for? Because we just might get it, right? So it's this work to find alignment. It's the work to raise our vibration. It's nobody else's work. It's ours. And paying attention to what we need to pay attention to, as I keep saying time and time again on the show, the willingness to dive in and do this deeper work, that you begin to understand, it's like, how can I help other people? And that's really what happened for me. When this is about, exactly what I've shared here. In my most wounded state, when I was suffering, when I was depressed, I was feeling hopeless, I was ready, I was having suicidal thoughts, I was all of these things that were going on inside of me that made me feel like I didn't matter, that my life had no purpose. And I was at this crucifix moment in my life. I was, in self-crucifixion. And it was from that place that I began to do this work. I began to dive in and sit down with a gratitude journal, and begin to consciously make the choice to sit down and find things to be grateful for. I had to do that. Nobody else. There were people around me that could have been like coming up against a brick wall, trying to tell me about how blessed and wonderful my life was, and they could have done it and done it and done it, and I couldn't hear them. I couldn't hear them because it wasn't my voice. It wasn't me. And it's the purpose is found within each of us. And so I had to consciously wake up every single day and sit down and grab hold of my gratitude journal. And I needed to do that. I needed to find the things to be grateful for in my life. Nobody else could do it for me. They could tell me about it, but it wasn't until I started putting the practice in and I started doing the work that my awareness started to become alive all of a sudden. And again, by true universal design, the more we find to be grateful for, the more that we have to be grateful for, because the universe, of course, delivers wherever we're focusing our time and our energy and our thoughts. So that became a part of conscious co-creation. My efforts to it are what led me through it and what allowed me to experience it on an even deeper level. So this is it. This is the starting point. So my purpose at that time in my life was to see all these things that I had going on and do the things that were bringing me joy. And I'm telling you, we can have joy doing laundry. Like, I mean, laundry is a chore and we can look at it, right? But it's about looking at how can we make it fun? How can we be playful? And are we doing it at a time where we have the energy for it? Or are we doing it when based on I should do laundry, based on I get to do laundry, or I should do laundry, or you know what? I'm going to leave that because today I really feel like going outside and going for a walk and spending some time with my kids and playing in the backyard. Honoring what felt right, honoring that whatever choice there was that was going to bring me the most amount of joy, the most amount of excitement or happiness. Those were the choices I was making. And so through that, to be able to go step by step, day by day, from sometimes moment to moment, and really questioning my choice. What choice do I have in this moment? I could choose to react, and we could get into a full out blowout argument, and I could say things that are unkind, or I can choose just to say, I need to step away and I have to just process some of this, and I'd like to talk to you later about it. I had to make a choice. And I'm saying this because I want to invite you to look at making choices for yourself, for your joy. Let your choices lead you to your joy, and let your choices be in choosing what's going to help you to feel good. What's going to help you to feel good, irregardless of what the ego wants to convince you of. So this is really this, and I share this because this was the work. This is what I had to do. And I started out, and that became the purpose was in finding joy. And the more that I chose joy, and the more that happened, I came into a more, closer and closer. I wasn't separate anymore. I'm coming closer and closer and closer to source, closer and closer and closer to my true self, in alignment with the divine. And through all those choices, it's like once I could sustain that, once that was there. And it doesn't mean I get it right every single day, because I still have those off days, but I have the tools and awareness to bring myself back into alignment. The tools and awareness in order to do the work that I need to do to heal, to shift something, and alter what is that state of mind that will bring me peace. What's the most peaceful decision I can make in this moment? And so it's through the conscious awareness that's become sustainable. And that's really the work. And once you understand, once you get into alignment and you've done the deeper healing, and you've overcome some of what were the biggest challenges, and then you look at other people and you think, oh, I know exactly what I could do to help them. Oh, if they would just sit down with a gratitude journal, I know that would make a big difference. And so you start recognizing that purpose becomes service. And it's how we can help others, how we can help others. That's really what it's all about. And as we continue to do the work, and we continue to keep that alignment and live in harmony with our true self and with source, then that's when purpose starts to unfold. That bigger purpose that we're all searching for is underneath all those other layers, but we've got to be willing to dive in and process the pain and move through the stories and look at what our role is as creatives in our own life. The universe is always listening, always. So before I go, I want to share some empowering questions with you. I always love asking empowering questions. Now, these are like questions that you're asking yourself, but ultimately, these are questions that you're asking the universe. And so, as you're doing it, this becomes a conversation between you and a higher power, or you and your source, you and your angels, whatever context you want to put that in. So, it really starts to look at these questions that say, what brings me joy? Like truly brings me real joy. And sit down and ask yourself that question. You might even want to get out your journal and write that out for yourself. I know I had to do that because I was so disconnected and I was living on autopilot and I didn't even know what I enjoyed doing in my life. I was so consumed by what I should do and what I was expected to do that I didn't even know what I loved to do. So start there. Just really have a great conversation with yourself and just say, what brings me true joy? Another great question to ask is, when do I feel most alive? So alive says when I have the most energy, when, what am I doing when I just feel so, so alive and so having so much fun and I'm experiencing that energy of vitality. What am I doing when I feel that? Pay attention and write that down as well. Really get clear on what that looks like. Another great question to ask yourself is, what passions or talents have I suppressed or ignored? That's a big one. And for me, it was my connection to spirit. And I was like, my art. It was my writing. All of these things that just light me up that I wasn't giving any opportunity to express in any way. And so that's a really big one. What are your passions or talents? Because often your talent is is the showing of your purpose in this lifetime. Those gifts, talents, and abilities are a part of the equation. Our pain is, but so are those talents that maybe we've suppressed or denied or ignored in some way. So I encourage you to look at what that may be for you. Another great question is says, how can I serve others? How can I serve others by sharing these gifts? How can I serve them? It's not like you're going out tomorrow to start a business or going out tomorrow to start doing that work. You're just contemplating. You're taking a look at some potentials, some opportunities you never considered for yourself in your life before. And the one question I love the most, which is something that my one of my mentors questioned me at the very start of it, was, what is the one thing that you would do if you knew you couldn't fail? That one thing. What is that one thing? If time, if money, if education weren't a part of it, that one thing, what would it be that you knew that you could do that you wouldn't fail at? And so those become questions to begin to ask yourself. And then opening to your heart and that trusting mind, that willingness to deeply listen, because the universe is always speaking to us through that inner guidance system. And these questions serve as keys to unlocking that deeper truth of what our purpose is. But here's some great empowering questions for the universe. Universe, show me. Universe, show me what brings me joy. Universe, I'm ready to experience the most joy today than I ever have before. How much joy is possible for me to experience in this moment? How much joy, right? Begin asking for it. Put it out there. Question it. Question it. Is it possible, universe, to experience more joy in my life? Is it possible, universe, to have even more blessings to be grateful for? Start asking some questions. Challenge the universe a little bit, because when you ask, you shall receive. Just be careful, as I always say, what you ask for, because you just might get it, right? So, I mean, I could go on and on, but I think here, this is in conclusion, this is really about understanding that purpose isn't about external achievements. It's not about how many people are watching you or liking your social media posts or are, supportive in the work that you're doing. It's about how deeply loved, how deeply loved, how deeply loved means how deeply do you love yourself and how deeply are you loving others? Because that's the kindness that you extend. That's the compassion to embody. And that's the joy in this pursuit. That's the joy in this. Joy comes from the impact that happens quietly in those small acts of kindness, in those moments of presence, and in those real authentic connections. And I love this too, by um, there's a quote, and I'm trying to remember. Uh, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But it goes like this: being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. And so when we can recognize that life is a sacred unfolding, purpose is a sacred unfolding, that this is this in the mix of this destination, that there is so much imperfection in it, but it's not about the circumstances having power over us, but how we respond, how we heal, how we forgive, how we love and show up every single day. That's truly what matters most. And so here, just know, sweet friends, that every step you take in the direction of that, the direction of connecting with your authentic self, to what brings you joy, to it's gonna really create that spark. It's gonna help you to recognize that spark. So, when you begin to live from that place, when you're in alignment, that there's a radiant vibration that's there that can't be measured. And it's in everything you do, and in everything big or everything small. And it touches lives, and it helps to shift consciousness. And it's the way that we all work together to gently transform the world. And so, as you do this, I just want you to know in completion that, our deepest purpose, your deepest purpose, is in being who you are. And I thank you for that. I thank you for showing up, and I thank you for the light that you bring to the world. And I just want to encourage you to continue to be you, to be well, and just to continue to let the light shine. So, my sweet friends, thank you for tuning in. If there was something that I shared in this episode that was impactful, helpful on your journey, of course, reach out. Let me know. If you feel there's something of value that someone in your life may benefit from this, please feel free to share. And I appreciate your support. And through all these conversations, just a little heads up, I'm taking some time off, a little bit of a, a sabbatical, so we could call it, but more importantly, it's a vacation. Let's just be real, Bonnie. I'm taking vacation, going to enjoy some of the summer months ahead, and I will return back here, just so you know, coming in again to you with lot more great conversations, a lot of really wonderful guests, and it's going to be on a new day and new time. So moving from Fridays, you're going to be able to enjoy the way through, happening on Tuesdays at 11 o'clock a.m. Mountain. So please adjust your dials, and more importantly, mark your calendars for the new date and time. I can't wait to connect with you then. All right.